Tonight on CTV, CSU helps community college students with their degree transfers, as well as helps cows produce milk through combating climate change.
Then the CSU-Wyoming border war approaches, and get an insider's look at the hiking culture in Fort Collins.
All that and more, starting right now on CTV 11. Good evening, Rams. I'm Robbie Patla.
And I'm Ren Wadsworth. Surveillance camera footage shows a Fort Collins police officer roughly arresting a woman behind a church on August 22, 2021. Police were called to the Fort Collins Mennonite Fellowship Church following concerned calls about a woman's behavior. Cameras from the Mennonite church show police approaching the unidentified woman before pushing her into a wall and then onto the ground. It is unclear through both the surveillance and body cam footage what was said between the police and the woman. Following the incident, Pastor Raymer from the church has filed a complaint with the American Civil Liberties Union for the excessive and unnecessary use of violence on the grounds of a pacifist place of worship. However, police officers at the scene state that the initial call was for a mental health matter. The concern was elevated to a priority by medical staff on the scene after seeing the woman's behavior. Fort Collins Police Services issued the statement, quote, "Supervisors reviewed the case in accordance with our policies. No formal complaints were made to our agency. As the ACLU has now filed a complaint on behalf of Mr. Raymer, Internal Affairs will conduct an additional review. As that internal affair takes place, we will be sure to follow along and keep you updated here at CTV.
If you're in need of acupuncture, you may want to be sure who you're working with. Kent Nixon, owner of Old Town Acupuncture, is accused of sexually assaulting clients and pleaded guilty to unauthorized practice of medicine. At his hearing on October 19th, some women testified that Nixon touched them inappropriately and manipulated them. However, according to the Coloradoan, those who are in support of Nixon says the accusations against him were a result of misunderstanding the treatments, elaborating that his profession involves working in the abdomen and pelvic areas. As of right now, Nixon is sentenced to 4 years of probation and 80 hours of community service. During this time, he cannot practice acupuncture, massage, or physical therapy.
Colorado State University signed an agreement with the Colorado Community College system to work on a new associate in engineering science degree. This will allow engineering students to move from community college straight into CSU's mechanical engineering degree. While previously this was already the case for some schools like Front Range Community College, it didn't apply to the whole system. Well, now it does. President Joyce McConnell says, quote, "We're proud to continue our close partnership with the community college system to help more students achieve higher education by eliminating bureaucratic barriers to their success," end quote. Students who complete their associate's degree at community college can transfer into CSU and be guaranteed to be on track for their bachelor's degree. Now teams at CSU and the community college system are brainstorming other degrees they can apply this treatment to, giving students of other disciplines similar benefits.
Now that we're past Halloween, you may notice that stores have started putting up Christmas decorations. Maybe that's to get the jump start into celebrating the season, or maybe it's to distract them from the surrounding empty shelves. Reporter Natalie Devereaux is here to tell us more. Natalie?
That's right. As you said, Robbie, you may have noticed empty shelves at the grocery store recently, or maybe you haven't been able to find specific products. This is due to a worldwide supply chain issue that stems from residual effects of COVID-19. This has led to consumers not being able to buy everything on their shopping list. But how are these shortages affecting those who sell the merchandise?
Driving too quickly down Mountain Avenue, you may miss Beaver's Market, which sits quaintly on the street corner. The shop has been in business for over 45 years and is one of the only family-owned and operated grocery stores in town.
We've all worked here so long. It's been our livelihood.
Fort Collins is packed with family-owned stores, and since the start of the pandemic, people have been advocating the importance of shopping locally.
When you support a family-owned or a local business, that money stays in the community.
But even with increased support, the big issues facing these little shops have been monumental. Recently, the largest issue they must combat is the fractured supply chain.
Right now, about 60% of the product we're ordering is not showing up.
Factories and shipping companies are trying to meet pre-pandemic levels of demand, but do not have enough funds or employees to operate at full capacity.
We've been so used to kind of going along fat, dumb, and happy.
Scarcity is something as Americans we have never dealt with.
This has led to the shortage of products we are now experiencing.
There's a shortage of aluminum and glass and raw materials for packaging.
We have not had a KitchenAid mixer in the store for 14 months.
We needed 500 case of Corona. We may get 50 or 100.
Some suppliers are resorting to allocating products, which is worrisome to small businesses.
Start to be more of a challenge for us because we're a low volume customer.
If a huge company like Kroger can't get products, a little company like Wilbur's, we don't have a chance in hell.
Even when facing such obstacles, these family-owned stores remain optimistic and want to continue doing their part within the community.
Supply chain issues are not predicted to end anytime soon, and the shortages may have an impact on the upcoming holiday season. It is also anticipated there will be more empty shelves as we head into the new year, with experts saying it could be months before we start to see improvements. Back to you, Robbie and Ren.
Thanks, Natalie. When studying climate change, most of the focus is on the environment and its impact of crop growth. However, a new study has revealed environmental factors have a significant impact on livestock production as well. Cows, much like humans, have an optimal temperature they both function and produce best milk at. Changes to the climate in either direction have shown negative dairy milk yields as a result. CSU Assistant Professor Nathan Mueller explains the case of this through his extensive research.
And then really interesting, we saw that the sensitivity of the system to temperature and humidity stress really decreased a lot over time from the 80s until today.
Mueller and other researchers at CSU plan to work with the USDA's National Health Monitoring System in the future. Through this collaboration, new practices can be discovered and implemented for farmers to increase the dairy flow.
Election season has come and gone, but on the final day of voting, what can you expect to see at Colorado State University? Colorado State University student volunteers took shifts on the plaza, encouraging other Rams to vote in the November 2021 election.
After Election Day, we just remind people to vote.
Anya is one of those students.
Colorado has an awesome direct democracy system, but there's still a lot on the ballot that's confusing, and honestly, it's meant to be confusing. You know, like even if you look at the Blue Book, so many of these measures are really dense and hard to read and hard to understand. So we're just out here talking to folks about these ballot measures to make sure that people know what they're actually casting their vote for.
Students and members of the Larimer County community could vote on the third floor of the Laurie Student Center by the Aspen Grill. Voters could both register and submit their ballots on the same day. This year, Coloradoans submitted their vote on Amendment 78, which required state spending to have a public hearing, and Proposition 119 and 120, which dealt with taxing retail marijuana establishments for state funds and lowering tax rates on multifamily properties in the state.
I know that our voting system isn't perfect, and a lot of times it feels like it's sort of like trying to make sure that students can't have a voice in politics, which is so frustrating because I know that young people care about what's going on in this country, and voting, especially in state and local elections, is just the best way to make that happen.
As the time to vote in Colorado ticks down by the hour, more and more Rams filter into the voting booths, encouraged by volunteers like Anya, determined to keep democracy alive at the school. Voting is closed in every location for the night, but countywide results can be expected by Thursday afternoon, and statewide results should be processed by the 12th at the latest. Stick around after the break for Michelle Ellis to let us know why we're already starting to see snow in November.
It's crazy. That's right here on CTV Channel 11.
I'll be right back. Hi! You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. If you're probably sober, then why would you do that? Good choice.
Probably okay isn't okay. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
That's a full glass of wine. I'll be chatting you later.
Hello everyone and welcome back. My name's Michelle Ellis, here to give you the weather forecast for this week. So let's begin with what the current conditions are looking like in Fort Collins. As we can see, it's cloudy and we're going to see a low chance of rain, about 24%. I did feel some raindrops before this, so there might be a chance, about 24%. Right now it's about 41 degrees, and those temperatures are expected to drop into the mid-30s this evening. And the sunset did set not too long ago, about 5:55 in the evening, and we're going to feel a light breeze coming in from the southeast, And some other things we're going to see as the beginning of November starts, we are going to really be feeling those temperatures drop. As we transition into winter, we question, why does it snow so much in Colorado? As the wind moves from the west, from the Pacific Ocean, that wind carries a source of moisture, which when added with the upward wind motion that the Rocky Mountains create, brings in cold fronts throughout the region that carry snowfall with it. The mountains are going to be getting more snow than the eastern plains because of its higher elevation. Although it may not be snowing in Fort Collins right now, we are going to see a little snow throughout the rest of Colorado. In Vail and Telluride, they have a chance of snow in the evening. In Vail, the National Weather Service did issue a winter weather advisory, meaning that the weather conditions in this area can impact the road conditions. So if you're traveling down I-70, that's something that you should be aware of. As we move to the eastern plains, we're going to see that it does cool down into the high 20s and even to the low 30s. And as we move down, we're going to see that we're going to hit in the mid 30s, even the high 30s in Denver. As we move into the mountain range, we're going to start to see it cool down a bit. In this area, it's going to hit to the mid 20s and low 20s. And here we're going to see that it starts to warm up in Grand Junction to about 38 degrees and Craig hitting 34. But will it be this cold tomorrow? Let's take a look. As we can see throughout the rest of Colorado, it's going to warm up just a bit into the mid 50s on average. We're going to see that it's about higher 50s up here, and then even Pueblo hitting the low 60s. In the eastern plains, we're going to see that it's a high 50s and even getting into the high 40s. As we move into the mountain range, it'll cool down a bit, with Vail getting down to 44 and even Telluride getting to 45 degrees. It warms up a bit in Grand Junction, about 50, but otherwise it'll be into the mid or high 50s. Let's now see what Fort Collins has in store for tomorrow. As we can see, it's going to be sunny and some partly cloudy conditions, and there's a low chance of rain, about 12%, and we're going to feel a light breeze coming in from the southeast at about 6 miles an hour. As we can see, it's going to be in the high 50s tomorrow, and in the evening, it's going to cool down to about 30 degrees. And as we take a look at the rest of the week, we're going to see similar temperatures, as it's going to be the high 50s on Wednesday, and it's going to cool down in the evening to 30 degrees. Throughout the week, we're going to see that the wind's going to have a light breeze between 5 and 10 miles an hour, but we're going to have a pretty low chance of rain. As we move through Wednesday and Friday, we're going to see it starts to warm up a bit into the low to higher 60s, but in the evening, it's still going to be pretty chilly with the 30s. And as we move into the weekend, it starts to warm up a little bit into the high 60s, but on average, we're going to see that the evening is going to have low to mid 30s and even getting a little warmer into the higher 30s on Saturday and Sunday. Now, everybody, that is all I have for weather for you this evening, but stay tuned because there's more news after this.
Hi. Hoping for a crisp breeze to help keep you alert. Oh, he took a sip of water too. That'll probably help. You were probably going to turn down the radio too, so you could focus, right?
Probably okay isn't okay.
Right.
If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
I think the water line is what really drove it home. I blew on him.
Welcome back from the break, Rams.
Co-founder of the Poudre Wilderness Volunteers, Art Bunn, passed away last week. In 1995, Bunn, along with Charles Bell, founded one of the largest all-volunteer organizations in the U.S., covering 58 trails in the Canyon Lakes Ranger District of the Roosevelt National Forest. The organization is around 320 members strong now and continues to grow. Annually, these volunteers produce more than 25,000 hours. In remembrance of Bunn, Bell says, quote, "His insights and dedication were key for PWV to become one of the best forage stewardship organizations in the country," end quote. These volunteers will continue to work hard in honor of Bunn to ensure that his lifelong achievement lives on.
Even though spooky season has come to a close, it's not too late to give some creepy crawlies their spotlight. However, these ones may not be that creepy after all. Maya Holmes runs CSU's Bug Zoo, which she describes as a living collection for outreach and education. Personally for her, it's a dream.
I have the really unique, awesome position of being able to say that I get paid to like talk about bugs, which is awesome because I love bugs and I like talking, so it's like the perfect job for me.
Home to over 40 species, the Bug Zoo houses an assortment of tarantula, cockroach, and other arthropods. However, this is not a lab for research. In fact, Holmes tries to avoid it.
There's a bit of a debate in the scientific community about whether or not arthropods can feel pain, and in the Bug Zoo, we function under the assumption that they can feel pain, and therefore we don't do any lethal studies, we don't do any stress studies.
Some of the work they will conduct involves behavioral case studies. For the most part, though, it's a space to learn, observe, and possibly fight arachnophobia.
Everything in here is alive and awesome, and it's a way to share why we should care about arthropods and not just squash them. If they're as dangerous as people say, we would have a lot more people dying from spiders than we do, and we just simply don't.
While it still may give some an unnerving feeling, Holmes feels at her element surrounded by these fascinating creatures.
Entomology is such a deep field that you could spend your entire life learning about entomology and still just have an infinite well of things to learn about, which I find really appealing. You know you can see me. Look over this way.
Holmes also expressed excitement about the new entomology major which launched last year. Even if you are not in the major, she says that anyone who is interested can volunteer or even tour the zoo. All I know is that I may need to go back in the future.
While CSU students are weeks past orientation, new faculty went on a RAM tour to connect in an engaging traveling seminar. The purpose of this tour is to create connections and collaboration between the CSU staff and the state of Colorado. This year, President Joyce McConnell, Provost St. Mary Peterson, and Vice President for Engagement and Extension Blake Naughton took participants on a 2-day trip. This adventure took the group through various Northwest Colorado locations, including the soon-to-be Spur Campus, Sea Lazy U Ranch, and Steamboat Springs. At each stop, they heard from CSU community partners and employees across Colorado about local needs and how collaboration enhances success. CSU staff spent this time also connecting and creating new relationships across different departments. RAM Tour was a part of an annual forum hosted by the Office of Engagement and Extension. This forum is open to any CSU faculty or staff member and holds numerous events throughout November. Those interested in learning more can do so at engagement.colostate.edu.
Fort Collins streets are about to get a lot more colorful with new sidewalk art installations. The project is funded by the National Association of Transportation Officials and aims to transform public spaces and build community with the installation of the new form of art. 3 murals are set to be painted before the end of 2021. So sidewalks and streets in Fort Collins will soon transform from gray and drab to anything artists can imagine. The art will survive for the life of the street and will not impact any current road markings. Community members are encouraged to grab a brush and help the artist from noon till 5 each installation day. Well, Rams, that's all the news we have for you tonight.
But don't go anywhere because Alex Prest will be joining us after the break to give you the rundown on this week in CSU athletics.
Awkward. I'm the awkward silence. You try to avoid me, then there I am again.
But an awkward silence can be a great thing.
Like Kelly here is about to demonstrate.
You haven't really been yourself lately. Are you okay?
Find out how you can help a friend with their mental health at seizetheawkward.org.
What's up, Rams? Welcome back to yet another edition of Bleacher Beat. Brandon's taken the week off to really take in that World Series finale, so I'm Alex Prast, taking the E out of esports tonight to give you your weekly update on CSU athletics. Going through this week's CSU scheduling update before breaking down what was a heartbreaking end to the 2021 season for Rams soccer. All of this and more on Bleacher Beat, which starts right now. Just like almost every Tuesday, we'll kick things off with a look at where and when the squads here on campus will be in action this week. On what was the days leading up to Halloween, things were kind of a mixed bag, both in terms of how many matchups were here in Fort Collins for CSU fans to attend, as well as the actual game's outcomes. Volleyball grabbed another dub over Air Force earlier in the week, but saw their first loss in a while against New Mexico. And football and soccer saw similar results, taking L's, the visiting Boise State Broncos at home and on the road against Wyoming, respectively. But hey, it's a new month, and it's time to turn the page. Let's look at the always highly anticipated border war matchup against Wyoming this weekend. After starting out conference play at 2-0, mostly due to playing some below-average teams, the Rams have fallen to 2-2 in the Mountain West, making a shot at a league title, well, basically impossible. Luckily for CSU fans, though, their team heads into Laramie at 1:30 in the afternoon on Saturday to take on a Cowboys squad that has really struggled as of late. They'll look to keep the Bronze Boot here in Fort Collins for the second straight year and take that dub in what will be the 53rd annual battle for the trophy. Look, I'll leave the game breakdown up to Cam on Thursday, but it's as simple as this. Wyoming lost to teams the Rams absolutely dominated earlier in the year in New Mexico and San Jose State. If they can't take this one against a program that is winless in conference play, man, that seat will get even hotter for Coach Adazio, even if this is an unpredictable rivalry game. And moving right along into some more CSU action, just like the men did on Sunday, Colorado State women's basketball hosts an exhibition matchup of their own, welcoming Chadron State into Moby Arena at 6 in the evening on Wednesday for the squad's first taste of the 2021 to 2022 season. Expect this one to be pretty easy for the Rams, almost like an extended practice. Can McKenna put this squad on her back on the way to a successful year? We'll just have to wait to find out. Oh, how could I forget about volleyball, who are back on campus this week for a doubleheader in Moby, facing off against Nevada on Thursday at 4 in the afternoon, who I might add is, let's just say, winless in conference play at 0-12 and 3-20 overall on the year. Following that match against the Wolfpack, Coach Hilbert's squad battles San Jose State at 1 during the day on Saturday to, once again, play out at the same time as football and give CSU that last tune-up before they take part in some border war festivities of their own next week. And finally, also make sure to keep an eye on the women's tennis and swim and dive teams, both who play in invitational settings over the next few days. As we get further into fall, let's hope for the sake of CSU faithful that Rams athletics could put in at least a bit better of an effort than they did this past week and finally hit their stride. Now, sprinting ahead into some more action, you might have noticed that there was one team I left out of our scheduling rundown. What squad is that, you might ask? Well, it's CSU Soccer, who entered Mountain West tournament play yesterday as the 5th overall seed, set to face off against an opponent they played less than 2 weeks ago, Utah State. And unfortunately for the Ram fans, the outcome there was more of the same. With Kristen Noonan, Gracie Armstrong, and the rest of this greatly improved Colorado State unit battling hard, but in the end, taking another L to USU, 1-0 in the first round of the league tourney, ultimately ending their 2021 season. In this one, while you might take a glance at the final score and think that the Rams were bottled up on offense all afternoon long, they were actually on the attack in this one, finishing with 14 shots when compared to USU's 8, and one more shot on goal than their opponents from Logan, with 5 close to the net. Coach Hempen's squad also managed to generate a crazy amount of corner kicks with 13, a major difference from the Aggies' 3. But as we've seen from the Rams at times this year, while they were the better team out there on the pitch, timely penalties and missed opportunities were the name of the game. Whether it was Gracie Armstrong's blown chance at a clear shot in the 15th minute, or what looked like the game-tying goal by Kennedy Layton near the end of the match that was called for a foul. CSU just could not capitalize on Aggie mistakes. Early on in the second half, Utah State broke the scoreless tie after senior midfielder Ashley Cardozo buried one past freshman keeper Shania Ross in the 45th minute. And with these blunders in mind, that was all they needed to move on to the next round of the Mountain West tournament down at Boise State. Excuse me. That is all the time we have for sports tonight. I'm Alex Prast. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for CTV Geeks, which is where I'll be doing what I know best, geek news. But be sure to keep sticking around. Noah Pasley's up next with all the spice in entertainment. You won't want to miss it.
Queen is just my everything. His smile did it. His smile, his eyes, his knowledge. My landlord, he decided that he wanted me to move based on the fact that I was transgender. let's just respect people in everyday life for just being human.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Tuesday Night Entertainment. I hope everyone has had a fantastic start to the new week, and thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, I'm Noah Pasley. The time for carving jack-o'-lanterns and hanging cobwebs has sadly passed, but there's plenty of opportunities even still to get your arts and crafts on. For instance, take this event coming your way on Saturday. The Blue Moose Art Gallery is back with more classes for beginners with a new felting course where guests will learn how to create their own felted gnomes while hearing all about the wonderful world of these hatted homesteaders. The class will be taught by instructor Jody Sherpels from 10 in the morning until noon. But if you aren't as apt to pick up a needle and thread and would still like to get your hands on a new project, maybe take on this opportunity from Pinot's Palette. Guests can try their hand at a class with far less guidance, as patrons of all ages are welcome to create their own masterpiece without the assistance of an artist at this Thursday's Freestyle Afternoon event. Artists at the event will get to paint on a 16 by 20 canvas and can follow some step-by-step instructions if they would like to. It's amazing that there are so many opportunities to dabble in making some of your own art, but I know I'd rather take my time on the trails before the weather sours for the winter. Of course, I'm far from the only local with the outdoors in mind. Even as temperatures dip, many in the Fort Collins community relish the chance to be outside.
I started hiking and being in the kind of getting outside. I'm actually from Chicago, so I moved out to Colorado when I was about 10 years old. My parents really introduced me to a lot of hikes in Colorado. It was my first time seeing mountains, and it was just really exciting. It's really peaceful at the same time, which I think is something that really draws me there.
CSU's own outdoor club also shares the sentiment, seeing natural spaces as a great way to recuperate.
I'd say especially during the pandemic for people when we weren't allowed to really be near each other and be indoors together as much, to be able to go out on the trails and exist in nature and just appreciate it. I feel like hiking especially is a great way to get re-centered and rebalanced, and so I think hiking was definitely super important during the pandemic. It absolutely was for me.
And of course, the Outdoor Club has got plenty memorable experiences of their own.
It was a fall hike, so we got to go see the fall foliage. I was just running down a couple trails and it started pouring. And it's like those are the kinds where you're like, oh, I didn't bring a rain jacket, but then you're sitting there with your friends running through the puddles, and it's just like making the best of anything regardless of how it goes.
These folks are plenty proof that you can still enjoy the nearby natural spaces no matter what season it is. For more information about what to bring with you for hiking, check out College Avenue's article coming soon. Even still, if it's already too chilly for your tastes, the Lincoln Center has another show lined up for the Fort Collins community. Perfect for the winter season, the Lincoln Center is bringing the famous Murder on the Orient Express, the classic Whodunit by Agatha Christie, to the stage. The show, which is running from now until the end of November, will require patrons to wear masks and show proof of vaccination or a negative COVID test. All right, Fort Collins, that's all I've got for you this week, but make sure to Avengers Assemble tomorrow for the best nerd news from CTV's Geeks, and have a jolly rest of the week.